Marfoogle TV going live in 3, 2, 1. We're going to be talking about the grid. We are going to talk about what exactly we believe is planned. We're going to talk about a lot. So let's get into it. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. First off, just want to say a quick thank you to Carlton Sutton before the show even started. Says, Jesus washed my sin away. Reckon this to be true. Carlton, thank you for supporting the show, and thank you for making it to so many shows, along with so many other Foogle fam. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for supporting Independent. Again, we have a lot to go over. So with so many other Foogle, let's get right into it. Iran sparks World War III fears as Supreme Leader rejects nuclear deal with rude and arrogant Trump. Iran's Supreme Leader argued that abandoning uranium enrichment was 100% against the country's interests. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei launched a blistering attack on the U.S. on Wednesday, accusing Donald and his administration of being rude and arrogant. His comments came as he effectively rejected a revised nuclear deal to put forward by the White House, which would allow Tehran to continue low-level uranium enrichment. Iran's Supreme Leader argued that abandoning uranium enrichment was 100% against the country's interest. The proposal that Americans have presented is 100% against these values. So with this being said, this is the ultimate kind of say in Iran, right? You've got the president, you've had the former presidents, especially the 2 or 3 that have perished mysteriously in a helicopter crash or in a missile strike or in a secret, boom boom hidden in a drawer, whatever it may be. All of these folks are kind of the figureheads. The Supreme Leader is the actual guy making the decisions. This is the same Ali Khamenei, the Supreme Leader, who was essentially over Soleimani, the guy that the same president took out in 2018, I believe. And that was because the president said that Soleimani was planning an attack on the U.S. that made 2001 look like chicken feed. So these people already hate us, and now there is a whole lot of nasty words being said between them. So this is, again, just like all of the other peace deals, everything is a stall tactic, not just with them. I mean, what do you think they're stalling for? What do you think that they're waiting for? Especially right now when they are so closely working with China, with Russia, with Cuba, with Venezuela, with all of these other countries. What the hell do you think is going on right now? What do you think that they are lining up? Let me know in the comments down below. We're going to talk about this and much, much more, including our grid, which is probably one of the most important stories of this month. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, before we get started, remember everything that you see here is going to have a source and a bibliography on our website. You can go over to marfooglenews.com and you can find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that you are going to find here. You'll just look for the most likely disaster to happen here in the U.S., and then again, you will have a full list of all of our sources. Let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So we have, well, first of all, there's a lot of subjects that are going to be kind of expanded upon that we have talked about over the years, especially the grid. These are things that our community has not, I mean, you could say that we've worried about it, but we've actually followed all of the stories. I mean, like this is a huge, time right now in our lives, in the world. We've got so many events going on.
Certainly. And let me go back to the Iran thing for just a second. What there's a huge contradiction, in my opinion, when I look at what the Ayatollah is saying here, and what we're saying. He's saying that they have to have enrichment, and we told him he could have enrichment, and then he says it's not good enough. So we gave him the enrichment for civilian use. So that means the only enrichment he wants is for nuclear weapons. Right? I mean, when you read it, it says the deal offered was they could continue to reduce their enrichment down to 3%, so they can maintain their nuclear power plants.
I'm so confused though, but Trump said no. Trump said no to that.
Trump said no, but the deal on the paper is what it is, and even it says here that the deal is 3%, and he's railing against the 3%.
So all you need is 3%. I thought it was like 30%, 3% for nuclear power. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I'm not a nuclear engineer, but my understanding was the point is they can have it for civilian use, and we caved from 100 to, or from 0 to giving them, civilian use for their nuclear power plants. And for him to come out and say no, that just really means what he wants is to be able to do weapons grade level. Because there's no in between. It's either you're using power plants or you're building nukes, right? What's in between?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they are just stalling, just like Russia and Ukraine are stalling. They don't want peace. Nobody wants peace. The peace is for us, the civilians, the peons, the people that they don't really care about. They're doing this for a show. There is something massive that is building right in front of our faces. So many people would rather believe the dream world, the world that says everything is going to be okay, the fantasy, the Disney ending. This is not going to have a Disney ending, okay? This is not going to have the happy ending you think it's going to have. It's probably going to have some sort of seedy massage happy ending that you wake up and you're in the wrong place and you go, oh my gosh, I'm in a prison, not in a massage parlor. Like this is terrifying. So this is something that we have all gotten used to. For the people that say, oh, this is fear this, fear that. Our community has been watching this for years. We're not afraid of this anymore. We've been watching this for so long, warning our friends and family. It's like, this isn't scary. Right now, this is something like most of us are ready for it. And honestly, for the people that don't believe, it's like all you have to do is just keep following, keep watching, keep looking, and you'll see. There are so many signs that this is going south, and it's not going to be the end of the world. They are restructuring things, and you're not going to like how it gets restructured. Our lives are going to change. Our freedoms, whatever left of the illusion of choice, is going to be gone. The things that we hold for, take for granted right now, they may temporarily be gone. They may be gone for a while, and then when they come back, they won't be the same at all. I mean, it sounds kind of familiar. I mean, everything after CV, it's like they took out so many things and then it just never came back. Gosh, I would love to have a 24-hour grocery store again. But, it's like they talked about the new normal, right? Well, you're not going to want to see the new normal after this. Stephen McMahon says, Izzy had nukeens since early 60s. So what if Iran gets them? A form of MAD in the Mideast could emerge from them enriching. Stephen McMahon, North Korea has them. The thing is because their main enemy is Israel. And I mean, most people believe that Israel has a little bit more pull than any of, than South Korea does, right? South Korea doesn't want North Korea to have nukes. And, I mean, nobody wants Iran to have these nuclear weapons, right?
Well, I think Iran's has had a public position that says they would wipe Israel off the face of the map, which is a lot different than, say, North Korea's position, which is we'll defend ourselves, don't come after us. North Korea wants to unify with South Korea. They don't want to necessarily radiate the whole southern peninsula of their peninsula, right? They would prefer to actually take it over and control it. Iran, on the other hand, says, nah, we just wipe them off the face of the earth.
No, that's an incredible point. Dex is spot on. It's like the guys that say, I want to wipe everybody out. Like, let's not give them a kitchen knife set for Christmas. And then Gary Fortenberry, thank you for the support. I appreciate that. Kay Parker Fraser, thank you for gifting out 5 badges. I appreciate that, Kay. Again, thank you for using that to actually gift things to other Fugel family members. That is really, really awesome. And then Russia wants to deploy 10,000 troops in Moldovan breakaway region, PM warns. Dex, do you want to go over this in Moscow and what they're saying?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, in Moldova, there's this sort of unrecognized state. They call it a separatist breakaway region. It's referred to as Transnistria. It is Russian controlled, and it has a very small number of Russian soldiers there now, but apparently there's talk about potentially putting 10,000 troops in there. And what would that do to Moldova and to the balance that it has? It's very Western influenced right now. A lot of its leanings have been very pro-EU, and having more troops there and more people there would help sway that towards Russia's side, as well as it would actually have boots on the ground, military boots on the ground, should they want to do anything. And it would be right on the other side of Ukraine, and which is where Moldova is, on the southwestern area in that direction from Ukraine. And it would, it would be a big shift in the way the current breakaway region is set up now, with a very small number of soldiers.
So you see a lot of these kind of pieces to the puzzle getting put into place. And then you have, of course, Trump flipped on us. MAGA reacts to a potential national citizen database. So this is another thing. So first of all, the White House has contracted Palantir. You might recognize that name, a Colorado-based analytics company co-founded by Trump supporter Peter Thiel, to assist in compiling a database of personal information on American citizens, according to unnamed government officials and Palantir employees who spoke with the New York Times. Now remember, this is the New York Times they spoke to, so these people probably don't like the president too much. The purported deal follows project talks Palantir had with the Social Security Administration and the Department of Education. The reaction from, of course, our president's supporters reflected growing unease within conservative circles, indicating a rare rupture between the president and key segments of a constituency. By the way, I just want to point out, like, everybody fully down for the president. Is it not strange to you guys? Does anybody else kind of see that almost this seems kind of like it's manufactured? Somebody put a really good comment on Twitter. I might be able to pull it up. But essentially, it was after now Elon Musk is now going and basically saying, yeah, I'm just going to be honest, this bloated bill is the worst thing that could happen, the $3 trillion bill. And he was a whole part of the Doge, and everybody, obviously it's been in the news how tight they are and how, close they've been and how much they like each other. They've done interviews together. And now you have him essentially saying this big, beautiful bill, as he calls it, is, gigantic and ugly to him, right? And somebody on Twitter essentially said that, this would be the controlled opposition to it. You would make him be the kind of counterweight to it and make it feel like there's some pushback. And they were saying that the president put $3 trillion in there, but what they do is they overshoot it because they never get what they want. They have the opposition, then it gets pushed back to what they really want, right? And then you have this controlled opposition to make it feel like it's something more organic. Well, with the same thing, it's like you have this whole pushback. Now, we don't know if it's bot farms or if it's truly a lot of people. But I do know, like, I've had some of the like thoughts. I mean, why shouldn't we? We're human beings. Like, if you have a thought, one was in the president's last term when there was the whole ordeal where he made a comment. And I don't know if he's corrected this ever since, but there was a whole controversy over if your neighbor calls the police on you, and if you own weapons, and if they say, hey, this guy's crazy, he's nuts, he's psychologically messed up, that they were trying to pass the red flag laws where they would just go take your weapons, and then you would have to go to court to get them back. Well, the president made a quote. He said something like, he goes, yeah, I totally believe, take the guns now and, go to court and get them back. You'll have to prove your innocence and get them back. I forget his exact quote, paraphrasing, but I mean, it was pretty much that, right? And I said, what? So you're guilty until proven innocent. This is something you guys know I strongly stand for, as far as all of the people that jump the gun on accusations on anybody, including celebrities. If you've been on the other end of that and had somebody say something untrue about you, and then just people assume it's true, it's a horrible thing. But also, that's not the American way. It's innocent until proven guilty. Unless somebody has proven that, that's something. But there is so much fake stuff going out right now. It's really hard to see what is going on. Now, Palantir, Dex, do you know about Palantir? I've heard this name many times.
Look, this is Peter Thiel's company. It's a big AI company. And look, the headline here and the way this is written is obviously cited to like sort of rebel rouse up the opposition and show that there's a split in MAGA, if you want to call it that. And they're basically using what was publicly said that they're doing to sort of paint this picture that may or may not be true. And I'm not saying this to support Palantir or support Trump. I'm just kind of laying out the facts. What we know they were doing and what they were planning to do, and they've said all along, was to make the government efficient. There's a lot of old systems. There's a lot of legacy stuff. There's paperwork held in vaults under mountains, and they process, payments that way. There's like all sorts of ancient stuff in our government that needs to be updated. And one of the things that it was scary, a lot of people were saying, was there's going to be a lot of automation, or AI, if you want to take it that far, was going to come in and try to clean up how the government was working, how the different systems worked, everything from Social Security to Medicare to anything else. All these different departments could actually be more efficient and operate. So who do they bring in? They bring in a company like Palantir, who has contracts with DoD and others. They're one of the bigger AI companies and a bigger data company around how to manage large sets of data like that. So it's easy to extract that and say, yeah, now they're building a profile of all the Americans. Well, the government already has a profile on all the Americans. So, stop with the extreme, sensationalism here. They're making it more efficient. Yeah, they might make it a little easier for, one part of the government to know who you are, because if you've filled out your Social Security information and you go to Medicare, they know who you are, as opposed to making you jump through 60 hoops again to fill out all your paperwork again because they don't know who you are. So again, not saying I'm for or against it, just trying to lay out what it is it's really, from the president's position, they're trying to make things efficient. From the opposition's position, they're trying to build a database against all Americans. So they're both true, and they're both probably some level is true on both sides, however you want to look at it.
I don't like that Palantir is involved. We've covered Palantir plenty of times, right? I mean, like, Palantir has been involved in a lot of the kind of a lot of dystopian stuff, actually. And the thing is, I don't like that kind of company is involved. Peter Thiel, some of the comments and some of the things he said previously. But, as far as this goes, my point is that nobody ever waits. Nobody ever waits to get the full truth out of it. And if the full truth comes out, like, you had the Hodge twins saying, hey, I hope this ain't all true, y'all. We'll see. And that's the thing. Don't go off of the media. The media is full of crap every day. I mean, how many times have we been lied to today by the media, by all of these? Half of these articles are Ganda, But that's the whole thing. If you're here, you have this sixth sense. It's not even a sixth sense. It's a pattern recognition, right? If you've watched the media and you've seen the end result, so they say, we think this is going to happen in 3 months. You wait 3 months, you see what actually happens, and then you see it repeat over and over and over again. When they say it again, they say it the next time, you see, oh, well, that's most likely going to happen, and it most likely does. This is pattern recognition, and this is something that really... there's not enough, I guess, evidence to say that there's a difference in people, but people call it discernment, and there's all levels of discernment. People last week said, there's levels of discernment, and I didn't have it on a certain subject, and I most likely don't. I'm a regular person, just like all of you. But I will say this: since I was a little kid, I've been able to see this. I've been able to tell when public people or anybody, celebrities or people were lying, right? Or you could tell when there was patterns in things. There's not all humans can do it, I think. And I think that our friends and family, a lot of them, I mean, how many of your friends and family are just straight up drones? How many people are just pulling out a segment out of an op-ed from somebody else's brain who most likely got paid to have that opinion, and they're just repeating it as their own? They're drones. I mean, these are vidiots, right? These are people that just watch video and go, that sounds good, and I'm going to sound good if I say that same thing. That's how people are now. Dex, go ahead.
We've been talking about this whole idea that, on one hand, the commercial entities have all the data, and, but let's not kid ourselves. The government does too, and they have their data. And for us to think that they're not going to use this type of narrative, whether it's the negative version of it or the positive version of it, to soft pitch us into, hey, things will be better when we can just, make things easier, and we can make things efficient, spend less money, make it easier for you to get your, Social Security check faster or apply for this benefit quicker, right? All of those feel good things get people to sort of just ease right in to these types of systems that, you give up freedom, you give up, other protections, all for the sake of convenience. And that's what happens, whether it's in the corporate America side, where we do with Facebook and any other social media platform, giving up everything for convenience, or in the government side, where, they soft roll this Palantir thing out, make all of us worry about it. But then in reality, they've already had it the whole time, and they just bring it to the forefront.
Well, that would be another thing if there was some sort of transparency to all of it. But now, Sean C. says, idiocracy is a disease. I just saw a video that just blew my mind, and it's so funny. It's a video of a gentleman talking about one of the little-known facts about the movie Idiocracy. Mike Judge essentially had the costume designer. They didn't have a lot of money for the costumes in Idiocracy. If you haven't seen that movie, it's a classic. You should go see it. But essentially says that the costume designer didn't have a lot of money. And there was this up-and-coming shoe company. They had to have shoes for all these people, right? There was an up-and-coming shoe company back in the early 2000s, and they were trying to find this future shoe or whatever. And they looked at the shoe and they said, oh, these things are absolutely ridiculous. We should go with this. And they were cheap because it was a kind of a crowdfunder. It was just starting up. It was a startup. And they said, oh, yeah, we should use these shoes. And Mike Judge actually on tape said, what if by the time that these come out and everybody starts wearing them and they become popular, and the costume designer said, no, these things are absolutely stupid. Nobody's going to wear these things. Those shoes, and you can watch the movie back. I had to go through the movie, and I skimmed through from Ow My Balls, everybody on it. They're all wearing Crocs. No joke. And I bet most of you have a pair of Crocs right now. I know that my wife and two of my daughters have them. I don't have them. But I will tell you this, I tried my wife on to take the garbage out. I put on the Crocs and I'm like, oh, okay, those are comfy. I almost wanted a pair. And it is literally idiocracy happening in real life. I just couldn't believe that. All of the shoes that they're wearing, besides like the Debo president guy, are all Crocs. I just thought that was freaking hilarious. We are literally living in idiocracy. So yeah, it is a disease. Lord Malphus, nice to see you. Passamaquoddy, Bobby Sue, Vanessa SDK. Let's see. Dude, that's what my dad did. And I get him a pair, and now he tells his dad friends. Okay, man. But you know what? The feet are something like, if you've ever worked a job 10 hours on your feet a day, yeah, there's a lot of crappy shoes. All right. And before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. This is our recommendation. If you want to protect your cars, your trucks, your motorcycles, your boats, anything that you want to keep running after an EMP strike, don't care about what people say as far as, there's a lot of folks right now that just have this as the last priority on earth. But this is something that has time and time again has popped up, and especially in the last few months. We just had the U.S. intelligence. They went in after Spain had all of Spain have their grid go down. Magically, within a couple days, they say it's related to their renewable technology. Well, guess what happens 2 days later? The U.S. goes through their renewable technology, and they found cellular radios placed by China in the renewable technology that they built that supersedes the firewall. So, these are things that are happening right now. So if you do want to protect yourself against one of the most possible events out there, EMP strike would knock down our grid, it would knock down our infrastructure, it would knock down water, and it would not harm a single person in the process. And all of the damage would be done by the country itself. Once infrastructure goes down, we don't have water. That's why 90% of us would perish. It's kind of like I don't know what you would call that, but it would be a friendly way to take out a lot of people. But again, if you want to protect your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, put one of these on it, and it will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a device, 500 trillionths of a second before it can fry your device. Now, well, how do you know? This is Keystone Military tested. This is the same technology, the same company that is outfitting agencies like DHS, DOD, and the Dempster team helping protect the Texas grid. So if you are in a state in America, there is most likely this technology from this company going up around you for their infrastructure. If you are, depending on Big Brother to save you, just look at Hurricane Katrina, North Carolina, Hawaii, California. Any of these events where they're like, yeah, oh, no, you don't want to go this way. Turn around, go back towards the fire. No, thanks. I'd rather protect myself. I'd rather protect my family. I'd rather be able to get out and bug out. Again, that's what this will protect against. And it works on generators, gas, and solar. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. Not only will you get $50 off with the code MARF, you'll help our small channel. We have been up against a mountain of media. These big conglomerates get the first 40 pages of results. You will not find our video, even if you type in the exact title. So if you want to help us, again, and protect yourself, this is the answer. Again, it will possibly save your life. It also protects against a Carrington-level event from the sun. So if we do have that event that you've heard about, the big solar event, a big solar flare that knocks down our grid, this will also protect against that. marfooglenews.com/EMP. All right, let's go back into it. The U.S. grid attack looming on the horizon. So first of all, we have Fugel family members that are connected in these areas. We have everybody from people that are just straight up linemen in the Fugel fam that were part of our I won't say what state groups. There used to be state groups when we had our Discord and they would meet, right? We had linemen. We had people that were higher up in DOE and Department of Energy, and a couple people that ended up, helping with the NERC report and things. We know that there's going to be a lot more coming out about the grid and the vulnerabilities that are happening right now. Some of which, some stuff that some of even our affiliates, some stuff that they can't tell anybody. And what's so sad is that they won't be telling anybody. I told you guys yesterday, the NERC report over 7 or 8 years, 7 years, something like that, there were over 600-700 attacks on the grid, from people taking pop shots to driving through into it, to flying drones into it, to lighting off explosives, whatever it may be. How many do you think were reported to the public? 700 reported to the Department of Energy. How many were reported in the papers or to the public? 2. So if you think that they're going to tell you when something like this happens, I'll tell you this. Your power is going to go out, your phone's going to go out, your internet's going to go out, and your car won't work. That's what I believe will happen, something like that. But if it is a cyber attack, you will just have the grid go down, and we could be out for days, even months. When we have seen a major blackout in just a city like New York, a blackout for one night, it has caused absolute havoc. So this is something that can cause billions, if not trillions of dollars in damage. And it is something that they've already tested on so many different countries. We've covered all of them. We've covered it on Ukraine at least twice. And again, they are talking about it here. There's more and more that is coming out, especially like that story I just told you about. They said that there were cellular radios that would basically supersede the firewalls of our equipment. The thing that happened in Spain with the whole grid going down, I think it was directly connected. It was a day after they said it was connected to the renewable energy that we came out and said there's actual physical stuff. I think it happened there. They went in, they broke open their devices, they found this cellular radio. The U.S. said, whoa, maybe we should check ours. These are building-sized transformers. So it's it's no small thing to disassemble these things. They disassembled it. They found this thing and they said, holy crap. This is just like the rumors that we heard back in 2017 of why the president signed the EMP resilience report to immediately harden our grid. He went into that secret meeting and came out and said, we need an EMP hardening right now. So, this is Wired going over it. Dex, do you want to just go over some of the highlights here?
Well, yeah. So they're talking about specifically, the type of damage that can happen from our grid, even if we have a minor attack, like just in a small section of the grid, that it can actually wreak havoc in large portion, even though we're decentralized, like we have a grid that is decentralized. So, but hackers believed to be linked to the Chinese government spent years exploiting vulnerabilities in critical infrastructure across mainland US and Guam to obtain access to the systems. The operation, dubbed Volt Typhoon, could have used this access to shut down or disconnect parts of the American power grid, throwing millions in the dark. The effort was luckily disrupted and the vulnerabilities patched. Still, it's an unnerving illustration of how vulnerable the electric system truly is. Well, they may have patched the Volt Typhoon, but what they don't know is what else was hidden within the systems through the holes that were made, and what other sleeping, attacks or vulnerabilities are just laying there dormant, waiting to be exploited when the time is right. So, but they did talk specifically about how it would look, what would happen specifically to the grid. It's like if one part goes down in New York, it can literally have a cascading effect through DC and then across the US, because even though the grid is decentralized, it is interconnected, and that interconnection causes a big tug or pull of power from everyone else when one area loses it, because it tries to balance that out. And that's where you start to see these cascading effects where it takes down large portions, if not the entire system as a whole.
Now, I want to point out solar winds happened, and there's still so much mystery around solar winds. Solar winds got into all of these different systems. Solar winds was one of the biggest, largest ever hacks into all of our systems. And in solar winds, they not only specifically access the Black Start program. If you don't know what Black Start is the actual program that it's essentially the step-by-step that we would take if our grid got knocked down or anything happened to our grid, cyber attack, whatever it may be, the steps we would take to turn it back on. Somebody wanted to access that. They accessed Black Start. They also accessed HR departments, the same HR departments that make your key passes to get into buildings and your key fobs, right? They access specific states. And, when you hear that the NERC report and things like this go over that just 9 transformers need to be knocked out to knock out the entire grid. We as civilians, we don't know which 9 need to be knocked out to knock out the whole thing. But, I mean, you're talking about China. They have the CIA has admitted that they have a bigger file on each American than the CIA does. I hardly believe that, but I do believe they have a file that's just as big. SolarWinds hack was a major cybersecurity breach. And again, all of this could be Gandit. This could be set up for the biggest Fantastic Freddy ever. Imagine the entire country loses power. All of our freaking Teslas start driving themselves and blocking all the roads like in whatever that Netflix end disaster movie is. Imagine Leave the World Behind, which, again, made by Obama. No joke. Imagine something like that happens. Well, something like this. So say all of this gets knocked out. Who do they blame? They could go, oh, China did this. This could start a world war. This could be something so horrific. Or this could be a distraction. This could be something that holds us busy while, say, China takes Taiwan. And simultaneously, look at all of these other countries that not only want to take their neighbors out, some of them want to take their neighbors' resources. Venezuela and Guyana, they did a vote and a referendum to basically take all of the resources of their neighbor, and that's just waiting. What is it waiting for? Russia wants to take Ukraine. Ukraine has all of this crazy resource. We're talking about billions, if not trillions of dollars. I think Lindsey Graham said $13 trillion worth of this resource that is going to be crucial in the next currency, right? Our current currency is the petrodollar. Well, if we're not using petrol in 30 years, what are we using? What is the dollar going to be connected to? Or is it going to be the dollar at all? Is it going to be the yen or the yuan? We don't know. But again, this was linked to the Russian government, and we don't know if any of this is true, inserted malicious code into SolarWinds Orion software updates. This allowed them to access networks of thousands of organizations, including U.S. government agencies and major corporations, making it one of the largest supply chain attacks in history. People forget about this because it was now years ago, right? The what we said back then and what we'll say now is they could have inserted things and backdoors into things that will never, ever be discovered because that is the entire point of the backdoors. Nobody sees them. This is the big steel door where, a little eye hole opens and go, password, please. And then China goes, give me number one, So yeah, I hope that many people have followed this over the years, and I do think that one of the things that sets people apart is just the sheer volume of these media stories and following through with them. If you followed this for years, if you're the kind of person who reads the newspaper every day, I hope that instead of being indoctrinated, you saw the patterns on the follow through and now realize like how much they have lied. It makes you look back at history and go, okay, well, if this is how bad they lie now, what's to say they haven't lied all throughout history? They say that history is wrote by the victor, right? Well, with what's being said throughout all of the hundreds of years, we don't know what is truth and what is not, but we do know what is right and wrong, and we do have discernment, and we can tell when something's fishy. That's why, it's important to have so many people looking at this stuff with a fine-tooth comb and with a magnifying glass because we can all see something's wrong. Dex, do you want to talk about China? Hacked U.S. telecom a year before known wireless breaches.
So this is one of those interesting things we talk about when the telecoms get hacked. They don't have to report it right away. It takes time for this information to come out. So one of the things that's just recently come out is that the earliest known infiltrations in our telecom system actually go a year before they thought. So they're saying that the Chinese hackers actually broke into our systems in the summer of 2023. So that's a very long time that they were hanging out in our systems before it became known and before they started running around trying to fix it. This was the Salt Typhoon hack, the one that was siphoning off all of the information about Americans and the phone records and their conversations, who they were calling, all the text messaging information out of the telecom companies. And even, they said they targeted Donald Trump and JD Vance and Kamala Harris and others during that time as well. So, but it was a multi-year operation. It was multiple breaches across multiple layers of the major telecom networks. That was one of the quotes from Lauren Galante. So, it's a big deal. They were rootkitting into these systems and getting this secretive access into the infected machines. And it goes back to that idea, like we talked about in the power grid. Take the power, take the telecom, infiltrate
Take
it.
satellites.
Infiltrate it, not to necessarily bring it down. In this case, it was they were taking some data, but at the same time, infiltrate it so that you can create those back doors to get into later, and creating, backdoor upon backdoor upon backdoor, so that you have multiple ways in at a later time, so that when you want to pull the trigger, you can.
And that's what they said. They're lying in wait. Now, and underwater cables. All of these have been practiced and talked about over the last 2 years. This is all of what we've been fed for years. And then you think about the Grove people, right? The people that meet in summer camp that just have all sorts of money, and they're just on a different level than everybody else. Those people do not care about you. Just as the congresswoman who goes in and whines that she can't wear her $12,000 dress on a Tuesday because of the dress code of Congress. This is a representative, somebody who represents you, right? And she spends $12,000 on a Tuesday dress. These are not people that can relate to us. They're not people that should be representing us. I mean, I'm not a fan of Fetterman, but gosh, if we had Fetterman with all different viewpoints like slobs, I would be okay with that. Because I would rather have a Fetterman wearing sweats and a hoodie than going in with the $12,000 dress. That's a Toyota to us. That's a college education for my daughter. That's years at a community college. Like that's just stupid. That's a private school for my little ones. And they spend it on a dress? These people don't care about us. And these people, they have all of their stuff lined up. We have covered this. They are making their bunkers. They're making these things. And people go, how could they possibly spend all this money, own companies, and make all this infrastructure just to tear it all down? Because who's the companies? They own the companies that rebuild it. Don't you get it? They get it on the front end and the back end. If they tear it down, who gets paid to put it back up again? You go to you go to the demolition company and the building company, both owned by this company up here, right? And it's probably one of three, Van, BlackRock. It's just like in the civil conflict and in many other wars. You had families like the Roth and all these people that supported both sides. They say, oh, you guys want some cannons? Oh, we'll sell you some cannons. Oh, you guys want some cannons? Well, okay. Are you going to fire it at them? Okay. All right. Well, that'll be $25,000. Oh, you want some cannons? Well, that will be $45,000. Oh, well, now they're in high demand. That's $65,000. That's $85,000. And therefore, they all get rich. We're talking about money it's past money where you can buy a skyscraper. We're talking about money that is beyond generational wealth where your family will always be rich, that you don't have to worry about trust funds or anything. We're not talking about like silver spoons. We're talking about diamond spoons. These people, they don't care about money anymore. They care about power. They care about legacy. They care about legend. Look at the guy that was the Titan sub guy. Did you know that the Titan sub guy, Dex, did you know this? The Titan sub guy, Stockton Rush, horrible last name for what he did. The guy that just totally just winged that submersible that imploded. Did you know that his dad was the president-elect of the Grove Club? Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Did you know that his family and then his wife, get this, his wife was the granddaughter the granddaughter of the original owners of Macy's that ended up passing on the Titanic. So they had direct connections there. The fact that that guy was the son of the president-elect of that club, which owns 40,000 acres in the Red Forest in California, it just blows my mind. Like, he didn't care about, I don't even think he cared about the money. They say it was money driven. I think he cared about making, this legacy that he was trying to impress his family. Like, that's how these people think. If you've seen all of the stuff that went wrong with that and how many times people told, like, he did so many illegal things in my mind, it's just unbelievable. But these are different people. These are not like us. Thank you, Callie. Thank you. I appreciate the support. I really thank you for supporting Independent. Rochelle Cooley, thank you for gifting 5 badges. Again, thank you for gifting not only for us, but for the Fugel fam as well. Rochelle Cooley says, I believe Obama was speaking without speaking. What's really creepy, I've talked to people that think that movie, again, he was a consultant. When it first came out, people thought Leave the World Behind was completely, oh, he's just a producer. They're not hands-on. Not only was he hands-on, he tweaked things from the book. I had to read the whole book to see what they changed. He tweaked the entire book, which, again, I would highly recommend if you've seen the movie, read the book. He tweaked the whole book with real information as someone who was the president. So all that stuff, the sound where the teeth fall out and all of that stuff, this is stuff we don't even know about yet. I mean, we kind of do with the Cuba stuff. But this is like, all of that stuff in the movie, Rochelle Cooley, I think so. But some people even think that he was giving us a warning, like he's trying to help us. I don't think so. Maybe it was a warning for somebody else. And maybe that's why people are buying up gold like there's no tomorrow. Ukraine soldiers are giving robots guns and grenade launchers to fire at the Russians in ways even the bravest infantry can't. So we have covered every last update on kind of the robotic weapons that are getting made from the very kind of start of this. I mean, we've been on air for 8 years. Now, I mean, they're adding all sorts of things to the artillery, right? Dex, now
it's
what
the
can these
ultimate
things do?
testing ground. I mean, look, everything going on in Ukraine is the ultimate testing ground for the West and for Russia. Russia's learning how to mess with our GPS, learning how to break through our encrypted communications, learning how to defend against our missile systems and the drones. Ukraine is leveraging and battle testing Western weapons for us, and we're getting to see how it works. They're testing tanks, and now they've been testing drones, water drones, aerial drones, now ground drones with machine guns on them and grenade launchers on them. So look, this if you want to know what the next battlefield is going to look like, just go pay attention to what's going on the ground in Ukraine. That's the and everybody said it sort of was the same thing with Pakistan and India, where China got to battle test their planes for the first time. And oh, by the way, they worked pretty darn well. So this is exactly what we're seeing. New technology rolling out, even if it's crude and rude, it's still the new technology. They're still putting it out there, still battle testing it, and everyone's learning from it. And believe me, the West is enjoying the Western military industrial complex is enjoying this because they're getting real world feedback, not just let's go play in the desert with target practice.
Gosh, could you imagine what if the entire India-Pakistan thing, that China's so powerful that they were like, hey, we're about to go to war with the US. We need to, test our jets in a real battle scenario. Let's set up this series of events that happens, right? Because the whole thing, the event in Kashmir, the response, everything about it seems like it was an op, right? And it would make sense. India is literally trying to take the manufacturing away from China, made in India program. They're trying to take their spot. Sure, China's not happy about that, especially knowing that within a few amounts of years, you'll have robots like this without weapons, but they'll be manufacturing all of the things that we don't want to manufacture, all of as they made fun of us that the fat Americans couldn't do the little screws and all these tiny things that now we have human beings working for peanuts making. That's going to be a thing of the past. Once you have automated, AI-driven manufacturing, you will not need cheap Chinese labor. And China knows this. China is right at the forefront right there. And I think that they did that. I think that they were the ones who did it. And especially with the vice president there, it was just such a setup.
They don't care if their population decreases either, because they know the future's coming, and the future isn't like 10,000 people in a warehouse. It's, or 1 million people in a warehouse on a line. It's all going to be automated. So, India's growing, they're declining, and they're okay with it. As much as they might publicly try not to say they are. They don't want to feed that many people. They don't need to. And they know they don't need to in 10 years.
Now back to Elon Musk. He's dissing Trump, right? He's going on about this. And yeah, I wonder if I could find that. Do you want to talk about this? I'm going to try to find this tweet because it was a really well worded tweet. So let me.
Yeah, so he's gone on a few of these, and the most recent one is he just said, "Look, I've had enough. It's the mammoth spending bills are bankrupting America." He wrote. He said enough. He applied 100% emoji to another ex-user that was reminding everyone that it's not about right versus left. It's about establishment versus the people. He's just been going off on ever since he left. And it's not necessarily at Trump directly. It's mostly at this bill, at least is how he is framing it. And it makes it, you can look at it and say there's a couple of reasons why. He spent a lot of time and effort to decrease the government spending by finding all of this waste. And it wasn't just the time he spent, it also cost him personally, like the attacks on his company, the attacks on his stock price. He paid the ultimate price to try to save all this money for the country, for this big pork-filled bill, as he calls it, to come out and spend all that money and then some, and even more. So that's one perspective. Another perspective some people take is, oh, well, he's all mad because they're cutting out the tax credits for, electric vehicles or solar power and things that are really important to him. And that would be beneficial to his businesses. Now that's a spin. You could take it if that, that could be one of his reasons, or it could not. Ultimately he says the reason is it's about the spending. It's an outrageous pork-filled bill. And, we tried to save money for the country, and all we're doing is making it worse by adding more spend.
Yeah, and essentially I said the theory earlier that this is like some kind of controlled opposition to make it look like it's a fight, and this is, and the way that she put it is also on. It was right next to Cat Turd. If you don't know, that's a famous X account, Twitter account. And Catturd was basically saying, I trust Elon and I trust the president. I trust them both. I believe that these guys are going to, even if they disagree on an issue, that these guys are going to be the guys that do it. And it does make you wonder too, like, are they kind of blind to some things because they are, so faithful to this person or so loyal to these people? And they're making excuses for some of these things, like, are they just not seeing that maybe they really don't like each other? And that's why they're saying, oh, this is all a ploy. They are really doing this for us because the $3 trillion bill will never get passed, and they want $1 trillion. So it will end up going back and forth, and then the deal, because he's the art of the deal, it will end up on a $1 trillion bill that's not so filled with bloat, and they'll get just exactly what they want. I don't know if that's the case, but I do know that, it is very odd for this fight to be happening, right?
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, there's no more back and forth on the deal because Congress, or at least the House, has passed it. So it's a matter of the Senate. And if the Senate passes it, then it's signed and it's done. There is no back and forth. But if it comes back from the Senate, maybe back to the House, we could see that. So it just depends. It really depends. On one hand, I think Trump's position on this was, even though it is a porkish bill, because even in its name, one big beautiful bill, never mind the 3 Bs that everybody likes to conspiratorialize around, that look like sixes, and never mind the Build Back Better theme that goes along with that from the last time. So there could be that all wrapped into one big, beautiful bill. But he's also needing to raise that debt limit, okay, because he has a mission to lower taxes. And when you lower taxes, you can't just lower taxes on people, because it becomes an expense. And if it becomes an expense, it has to create debt, because right now we spend more than we make. So if you can't raise the debt ceiling, you can't lower taxes. So if he can't lower taxes, he can't be true to his word when he said he was going to lower taxes. So I think going into this, in the beginning of the year, into his beginning of his term, he knew he needed to get a deal like this done, especially with that debt ceiling, because if you remember back in the fall, he tried to get the House to pass that debt ceiling lift so that he could come into the new year and do these tax lowering things, and he wasn't able to do it because they said, nah, we'll just wait till you're here. And they didn't pass it, and there was that big uproar over it. So I think that's a big part of why he needed to get this bill through, and why it was probably more porkish, because he needed it to get done. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just trying to explain at least why I think it was so important to him to get back to that whole idea of potentially reducing taxes.
Well, so, again, we'd love to hear your opinions on this. We would love to see what everybody is thinking. What is in the zeitgeist? What are you thinking about when you see this kind of fight? Especially from those who have followed the entire thing and all of the kind of back and forth. And I don't even, you can't even call this back and forth, because Trump's not saying anything bad about Elon, right? So, what is it? Now, before we move on, make sure to go check out My Patriot Supply. This is our recommendation, as far as we have a few actual recommendations for freeze-dried food. This is our recommendation for the most bang for your buck. As far as this goes, again, this is 25-year shelf life food, and it is some of the most affordable bulk prices you can get. As far as when you use the actual link, marfooglenews.com/prep, you will automatically get the discount. Again, some of the craziest discounts they've had in the past, $200 off on a 3-month package. There's all sorts of different ones. Depending on what time you go there will always be a discount. But some of the big ones, like $200 off on a 3-month package. At the actual price that it's gone for and that it's going for, you'll spend less on if you ate this every day than you would going to the grocery store. And that's crazy, because freeze-dried food has actually tripled in price over the last 4 years. It's actually quadrupled now. I said that for a long time, but now it has quadrupled. And that is because the technology, the time it takes to actually freeze-dry, and then a company is packaging it for you. If you go into Walmart, you buy $11 to $15 for a single meal for Mountain House or something like that, right? So this is a really, really great deal. This is survival food. So this is freeze-dried in Mylar bags. It's going to last 25 years. And the great thing about freeze-drying is it keeps in most of the moisture. It locks in all of the flavor and all of the nutrients. And again, once you add water or cook in sauce, it brings it back to life. That's why freeze-dryer and dehydrated foods, there's a big difference. Freeze-dried lasts a lot longer. So this is a really, really great thing, again, for those that want to get, especially a lot. If you have a family of 4 and you're trying to get 6 months of food, or if you're trying to get 9 to 12 months like the government recommends in that EMP resilience report, I mean, just look at the price tags. You'll quickly go, is there a cheaper option? This is an incredibly affordable route to do that, and you've got yourself food that will get you through any kind of disaster. Not to mention, freeze-dried, it shrinks it down so much, and then when you put the water in it and cook it, it goes back bigger. Goes back bigger. That's a good one. 2028, Marfoogle goes back bigger. But you guys get the drift. When it's shrunk down, it takes up very little space compared to canned foods and things like this. You guys, most of you probably have a ton of prep food, and it takes up huge shelves. Half of my garage is now food that we have to essentially throw away. We tried to eat as much of it as we could, but it's a lot of stuff that's now expired. So again, go check it out. marfooglenews.com/prep. And then The U.S. Embassy tells Americans to be prepared to take cover as Kyiv brace for shock and awe. I'm not going to put a prediction on this. I'm not going to put a time frame because their time frame is always wrong, and they're not even putting a time frame. But Russia has already even clarified to the president. Trump has already clarified that Russia is going to respond to this. What is going to be the response? And what's crazy is Russia has been saying this whole time that Ukraine isn't the one doing this. NATO's doing this. So what is the response going to be, and who is it going to be against? That's the thing. This is one of the biggest hits to Russia that they have ever had. During this entire war, this is one of the largest that has ever happened. This is one of the biggest responses from the Russian people. And again, most of you probably don't know what the Russians are saying because RT is gone. All of these different things are gone. But if you use VPNs, you can quickly find from other countries, India, from Germany, from other countries that actually have a really good system to bypass all this stuff. They are absolutely pissed. And they're mad at not only Ukraine, they're mad at NATO because they believe that without NATO, Ukraine wouldn't have been able to do this. They wouldn't even be alive right now. Ukraine would be Russia right now if it wasn't for this. Western media wants you to think that, everybody hates Russia that lives in Russia, but that's not how it is. Talk to some real Russians and Ukrainians. Some of them, and I've talked to Russians and Ukrainians that hate Russia and Ukrainians, hate Putin, but those same ones have said, but half of my friends absolutely love him, and it's fighting words if you talk crap about Putin. I'm assuming it's a whole lot like if somebody talks about our president now in a right-leaning establishment, right? Or vice versa, which we saw a lot of over the last 4 years. So yeah, Dex, the shock and awe. I mean, that they're talking about shock and awe, and if you don't know what shock and awe is, I'm sure most all of you are in the age range where you do remember after 2001. George Bush did shock and awe campaign, and it was something that most of you will remember. It was just missile after missile after missile, explosions. You see a whole city that's just lit up. That's what they're expecting for this. Dex, do you think it's going to be a shock and awe, or do you think it will be something else?
Yeah, I don't see that it can be anything other than just attacking Ukraine again. So I think the notion here that they're telling U.S. citizens there to prepare and to take cover. I mean, the actions: identify the sheltering location, download a reliable air alert app to your mobile phone, such as air raid siren or alarm map. Immediately take shelter away from windows. Monitor your local media and for updates, and keep reserves of food, water, and medication. Follow the directions from the Ukrainian officials in an event of an emergency. So that's the actions they're telling U.S. citizens to take. Yes, it's going to be that, because I can't imagine that there's a scenario that makes any sense at this stage for Putin to drag NATO in or to use something like a tactical, because it doesn't even give an advantage. It actually creates a bigger problem. A tactical would make sense if he was trying to wipe out an entire chunk of a military command and control, but there is no such thing of that in Ukraine. They have a completely distributed system in their military. People are spread everywhere. They're not congregated in any one location. So I don't know. I don't see anything other than just him lobbing a whole lot of missiles, a whole lot of drones all at once, and maybe hitting some major cities just to do some serious damage.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is something where we have to wait and see. We're going to sit tight and assess. Digital Revolution says cut the undersea cables. Oh, like as a response? I don't know. I'm not an expert on the undersea cables that affect Ukraine, but what about NATO? I think the underwater sea cables, just my best guess, that those will be cut as part of a way bigger event. That's communication, like between us and Europe. If they cut those underwater sea cables, we have no hard line. And then at the same time, the last couple of years, they've talked about satellite weapons, right, that can knock down satellites. And now China's been launching stuff into space like crazy. A lot of it is not covered in Western media. but it really is quite alarming how much is being launched by China. Especially they're doing their own space station. They are, of course, supposedly making all sorts of projects. And then our own DoD came out and said that they've weaponized space. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Again, Bobby Sue, thank you, Wages World. Again, thank you, Callie, Leslie Lindsay, Wiz Jen, Gwen Fox, Night Owl, Rashid, thank you. Let's see here. Angel Wings, thank you so much. Julius, Night Owl, Vanessa SD, Kathy Paina, aloha, and mahalo. Thank you so much for being here. Gwen Fox, Germany. Again, Bubba One, Nation Against Nation. They run whole show and no more good guys. Yeah, it's crazy what is happening right now. It is a world against world. So thank you, everybody that made it to tonight's show. Dex, thank you so much for your service today. Appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Thank you, everybody that made it. I love all you guys. Thank you so much for all the support. And I'll be going over the top supporters over on Jams. Again, that is because I want you guys to be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. And it's a shoutro. It's not a shout out. It's not an outro. It's a shoutro.